Okay, short video. 3 things need to be true, I think, to make a good character for an RPG, and it doesn't have anything to do with role-playing or motivation or backstory. This is for tabletop RPGs. My name is Matt Colville. I have a whole series on how much fun running D&D is, and it is way easier than it looks. So if you're curious about that, there's links in the doobly-doo. You can watch the videos in any order, doesn't matter. Grab the ones that look interesting. You don't have to watch them all, or really any of them, or in any order. Take what seems useful. But this is about the player side of things. And just like all my D&D videos, this doesn't actually have anything to do with D&D. It is about tabletop RPGs. Baldur's Gate, you can do what you want because there are generally not other human players for you to worry about. But at the table with your friends or even random weirdos, this advice may be useful. As always, this is just my take. It may not help you, but it may be useful to somebody. 3 things, ready? You need to enjoy playing your character. The other players should also like your character. Finally, the dungeon master or the director or whoever's sitting on the other side of the screen needs to like your character. That might all seem obvious, but there are real challenges with all 3 of these answers. But at the end of the day, if you are having fun playing your character, if your friends aren't annoyed and you're otherwise not disrupting things, and your director thinks your character is cool, you are going to have a good time. So let's get stuck in. I'm going to give you the best advice I got right up front. Make a character for the game you are playing. In other words, start here, or here, or whatever book is the book for the game you're playing. The biggest problem I have seen, and I have seen it constantly for decades, is people show up excited to play, and they have some idea of what they want to play before they have looked through this book. If that's you, you are probably going to have a bad time, because if the idea you have has nothing to do with what's in here, you will always be fighting to shoehorn your idea into these rules. You will be fighting with the other players who did make characters for this game. This includes characters like Legolas, which you would think is like as bog standard a fantasy archetype as you can get. But no, you cannot do in this game all the weird things Legolas does in the Lord of the Rings movies. You can do some, no problem. You can do others, sorta, and other things you're just going to get frustrated because this is its own game. It is not a Lord of the Rings simulator, and it is certainly not a Lord of the Rings movie simulator. That's what I mean by make a character for this game. The good news is, whatever game you're playing, whatever rules, whatever addition, whatever restrictions your director puts on new characters, there's about 11 billion characters you would still love playing in that game with those restrictions. I think a great way to start is literally just flip through character creation, look at the art, the names of things, maybe read some special abilities, and allow yourself to be inspired by what's in here. Okay, that's the first chunk. Whatever kind of player you are, first make a character for the game you're playing. Then try to make a character that fits in. Your director can probably help with that. Speaking of which, the director needs to like your character. For some people, this may be the most controversial piece of advice, but it really should not be. I am still reading John Peterson's brilliant book, The Elusive Shift. If you only ever read one book about the early history of the hobby, make it this one. Seriously, it is mind-blowing. It is all about that moment, which can't really be pinned down. There is no day or date or even year for this. That elusive period where D&D went from being a kind of war game or an exploring the dungeon game and became a role-playing game as we understand it. It happened sometime in the 70s, but you really can't get more precise than that. In the 70s and even well into the 80s, there was no internet, not even really Usenet yet, but there were zines, amateur staple-bound magazines, really low print runs, like 1,200 copies of one issue would be a lot, where people talked about D&D and other role-playing games. You would write your article about your homebrew rules on your typewriter and then send it in, and they would put it in the next issue. Some zines were only letters. Letter zines, they were called. No real articles, just people writing up their thoughts about how the game was or should be played, and then people writing back in response. You would get these long arguments that played out over months and years because everything was going through the regular mail. Am I the only person completely fascinated by this? Well, in The Elusive Shift, you can read excerpts from those original zines and see how all these people were working out what role-playing games were, what they could be, and what they should be. And I am here to tell you, almost every argument or hot take I see on social media in 2024, people were having exactly those same arguments in 1979. One person wrote, and this was a major revelation for him and the readers, he said, I feel like I have the most fun when my character is really a collaboration between me and the DM. He was struggling with that idea. It felt new and a little unnatural. That was in like 77 or 78. That statement would have made no sense to the players in 1974, 1975. What do you mean a collaboration? My character is mine. I made them. The referee, the term DM didn't exist yet, the referee is the enemy. I am trying to beat their dungeon. I'm not collaborating with them. Well, we don't really see it that way anymore. I mean, maybe some people do. Those folks playing the dungeon game in 1974 were having fun. But I think most of us in this day and age understand that D&D is not principally an adversarial experience between you and the DM. I mean, even in 1974, lots of referees knew their job was to be fair first and not competitive or adversarial, and that's where all this really starts. But I think that dude writing in that zine almost 50 years ago was right. You will have more fun if your character is kind of a collaboration with the DM. But we have to be very careful here. Your DM is not the author of your character. You are the author of your character. Your DM is sort of like your editor, which the more you know what an editor does, the more true that becomes. Another way, maybe a better way of putting it is, your DM needs to have an idea of who your character is, and that needs to be pretty close to your idea. And ideally, the DM thinks, yeah, that's cool. That sounds simple and easy and maybe obvious, but I have seen people show up to the table. And this is not unique to any group. I have played with dozens of different people. I have seen lots of players show up with a new character that really does not make sense in this game or in this world. The DM could not imagine this new PC. They couldn't figure out how to make this new character make sense in their world. It's bad for everyone because, wow, I really hope people watch this video. Directors don't want to say no. They want everyone to have a good time. They want to be accommodating. And the player who has a crazy idea for a hero, they might not know it's crazy. They're inspired and excited to play. So a lot of directors say yes because they didn't show up to tell people no. And then it's weeks of things never really working and everyone's sort of going along with it until it's no fun anymore. This is your opportunity not to be that player. The game has restrictions on what kind of characters make sense, and your director's world or campaign or whatever also has restrictions. I think within those restrictions, within almost any restrictions, there are limitless opportunities to create. Now, sure, if a DM is running a really dark fantasy game with various kinds of violence, maybe that is not to your taste. That's fine. That just means it wasn't meant to be. Listen, lots of my friends, they would like my game a lot more if it was much more whimsical and silly. Well, I ran Paranoia. Nothing could be more silly, and we all had a blast. Sure, I tend towards serious political games, but I can have a blast running a game with, cute animals or whatever. We all just got to be on the same page. That's all. Everyone at the table needs to be pulling in the same direction. Otherwise, someone, maybe everyone at the table is going to have a bad time. So ask your DM if they have a handout you can read describing the world or the campaign or whatever. DMs, keep it to one page. Once they're hooked, sure, then you can link them to your wiki or whatever, but hook them first, which means keep it short. I remember Phil wanted to run for us for years, but he wanted to run in his world where dwarves are the dominant default species, and he figured we'd all want to play something stupid, like elves or humans. When he finally said that, I was like, Phil, I guarantee you we would all love playing dwarves. He literally said, really? Yeah. And we streamed that. Everyone had a blast. It helped a lot, actually, that Phil said, this is the kind of game I want to run. Your characters need to fit in this box. But within these boundaries, go crazy. That is a very effective way to communicate and collaborate. One of the problems is the core D&D rules present a very specific fantasy. The books say elves are like this, dwarves are like this, and people don't even realize these ideas are unique to D&D, often unique to a single edition of D&D. They think these are like generic elves. Nope. And this is a problem because a lot of people become dungeon masters because they are creative and they want to make a world that almost certainly does not conform exactly to everything in these rules. That doesn't mean they're a writer or an artist, although they may be. It just means they are creative people. One of the things I deeply love about this hobby is it is a brilliant creative outlet for people who might never have thought of themselves as creatives. Like I would pay my own money to create a coffee table book that is just homemade dungeon and world maps from the 1970s. I am always fascinated whenever some OG player from the 70s uploads their original maps online. I'm talking like hardcore dungeon maps because the person who made that dungeon probably had no art training and did not think of themselves as an artist or of the map as art. But that's all I can see now. They are amazing artifacts of pure outsider art. It's just graph paper and pencil, lines and symbols, but they look beautiful to me. Anyway, see, this is how videos get long. Was that interesting? Yeah, maybe. Did it make my point clearer? Nope. Anyway, because these rules do not call out the fact that they describe a specific D&D world, there are some people, probably many people, running D&D in basically no setting, no world exactly, just the default, somewhat flavorless fantasy land. Then you have some DMs who love Planescape or Spelljammer or Dark Sun or the Critical Role setting. And then you've got other DMs, and our own polling indicates these are the most numerous, at least in our community, who make their own worlds. I think the folks in Seattle think this is a good thing. Lots of tables, all running different games. Some are in D&D flavored generic Fantasyland, some in a published setting, some in their own setting, and they may be right. That may be the right way for D&D to go. But it creates a lot of problems because people, even experienced players, if they're new to the group, even if they look through this book, they can't assume the character they're inspired to make fits in with the world the DM is running. And really new players don't know that. Doesn't occur to them that they could make a character that doesn't make sense in the world. If you want to have fun, your character needs to fit into the world the DM is running. Otherwise, there was always going to be this constant static, this friction between you and the world. You and the DM, sure, but you and everything the DM does. Again, inventing your own world is part of the fun of DMing, but it necessarily means not everything in here is going to work as advertised. Okay, you need to like your character, the director needs to like your character, and the other players need to like playing with you and your character. Actually, a better way of putting this is, you should not be in the business of annoying the other players. There is definitely a classic archetype of player who only has fun if they can show up with a character that just annoys everyone. I mean, Dragonlance had an official ancestry just for those players, so it's not like this is some obscure problem. These folks usually try to make it everyone else's problem. Well, you can try that, but it's not going to last. They will find a way to play without you. If you decide to make your weirdness, your weird choices, everyone else's problem, you will not last long with that group. Because at the end of the day, you chose to make that character, and you chose to play them like that. You could have made a different character. If you try to argue that the only way you can have fun is by playing an annoying character or otherwise acting or behaving in an annoying way, you may have fun for a little while, but the group will adapt, and you will find yourself on the outside wondering what happened. D&D, the game, and this hobby in general, it can't fix every social problem with every potential player. It's not designed to fix any problems. This game is not a process by which you become socialized. Some people learn how to sand off their rough edges and fit in, but that growth happened inside them, not from the rules in the game. I have played, very briefly, with groups where I showed up and I realized, oh, all of these players are toxic. This is a deeply dysfunctional group. I am out of here. But that's my judgment. If they're all having fun, I am happy to leave that group to them. I did the adult thing and I said, this group is not for me. Not gaming is better than bad gaming. If you've never played before, or you've never played with this group before, my advice is just ask the other players what they're playing. Listen to what they say. Get a vibe off of them. What do their characters inspire you to play? If your reaction is, well, they're all playing X, then I'm going to play the opposite. Then you're thinking like a problem player. Colossus isn't the opposite of Kitty Pryde or Storm. He complements them. Imagine the other characters are all on the cover of a comic book or a movie poster. What's missing? What kind of character would fit in that picture? The first time I ever played, I was 15. I vaguely knew how D&D worked, and when everyone said, what are you going to play? I shrugged and I said, what do you need? I imagined it sort of like the old video game Gauntlet. Oh, you got a warrior, a wizard, and a Valkyrie? I'll play the elf.
Elf shot of food.
Literally, my first experience as a teenager was, how can I serve the music? I didn't want to stand out. I wanted to learn first. I didn't want to learn the rules first. I wanted to learn how they played. There's lots of ways you can annoy the other players. Some groups are really into staying in character, so to speak, doing the voice, and maybe you're not. First of all, that's fine. You should never feel pressured to do the voice. Doing the voice is not what makes good role-playing. It can be fun, but I think it's mostly a gimmick. It doesn't make your character three-dimensional. It doesn't make you a better player. It's just another style of play. I did a whole video on this. You can watch it here, linked below. So if you have, performance anxiety, so to speak, you can relax. A lot of people are doing the voice, and it's pretty low-quality role-playing. And the reverse is also true. If the other players don't speak in character all the time and you do, that may not impress them. They might think, what are you doing? Why are you talking like that? Read the room. If you feel pressured to play in a certain way that isn't fun for you, you can just say, that's not really my thing, guys. Sorry. And if the other players don't understand, if you feel continually pressured to conform, you are probably in the wrong group. It's just like advice about the game and the director. Yes, these rules constrain your choices. Yes, this director's world or the campaign they're running have restrictions. We need restrictions in order to be creative. Yes, the other players constrain what kinds of behavior and characters are okay at the table. But the good news is there are almost infinite heroes you could make and have fun playing within those restrictions. Usually. Like I said, some groups are perfectly fine playing in a way that you will find gross. Don't try to change them. They are having fun. Just find other people to play with. Now you might think, hang on, Uncle Matt, isn't a good backstory important? What about my motivation? Well, yeah, we may do a video on that stuff, but the fact is, I have seen people have fun with elaborate backstories and motivations and without. I have seen people show up with really three-dimensional characters and be miserable. So sure, those things can be important. Lots of things can be important. But I think first we should focus on what decisions you can make about your character that will make it more likely you and everyone else has fun. The rest is commentary. Go forth and game. That's it, folks. Short-ish video. Should be about 15 minutes, plus or minus a minute. As you probably know, MCDM is working on its own original fantasy role-playing game, and it's really fun, folks. I think we've made something really special. If you want to follow development of the game and watch the sausage, I mean, we're sort of done making sausage, and now we are making food with sausage in it, if you know what I mean. I would say we are well past feature complete, and we are now working on content complete. But the patrons will get a playtest packet pretty soon. Backers, maybe a month later. That way, the backers are getting the much more polished game. So if you want to actually try the game, come on by the Patreon. It's only $8 a month, and there is a ton of cool stuff in there. And it's only going to get cooler. If you have questions about any of this stuff, about this video, about the new RPG, about, life, I will be streaming here this week, this Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. I just always think it's a good idea to do a live stream after a new video to give folks a chance to ask questions. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope there was something in here you found useful, or at least interesting. As always, I have no idea when the next video will be. It depends on when I have a good idea. Until next time, peace out.